Hello, welcome back. This is Jeff Byers, and I'll be your instructor for this video tutorial series. And we're going to be talking about how to UV map a short sleeve shirt, and we'll be using Udem tiles. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, let's go ahead and get started on the next piece. So let's go ahead and close this. That's already done. Let's go and go into selection mode. I also want to be in object mode up in here. And what we're going to do now is we're going to do a control 1. We're going to show those buttons. Okay, we want to, since these are kind of, I would consider an accessory to the shirt, it's going to be, they're going to be basically UV laid out separately. As you can see that they're pretty low poly. Now they look round from farther away, but I definitely need to go in there and smooth those out so they look more like buttons. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select these pieces that I want to separate from the object. Okay, just click on those. I don't have too many of them, so this shouldn't take too long. Or I can just do this. This would be even easier. Selecting the whole thing, marquee select. Work smart, not hard, right? Hold the control key and click on that, and then I can go to control 1. All right. This allows me to see all my buttons. Okay. So the idea here is that we have these buttons, and we want to go ahead and just UV map one. Okay. And but we want to smooth out. Now this is already smooth. We don't have to do anything to this. It's just the buttons that need to be smooth. So I'm going to go ahead and select all the buttons and smooth these to at least 1. And that's what I usually do from a low poly to a high poly because those buttons are low poly. So I'm just going to go in here and go to mesh and go to smooth. Okay. And we're going to go to 1. We don't need anything more than that. Okay, let's go ahead and reset this. Just make sure it's reset. Go to 1 and then smooth. There we go. And then what we want to do is we want to delete the history right away. There we go. All right, so those are all ready to roll, rock and roll with those. Okay. Now the thickness is a little bit exaggerated. The reason why I do that for stylistic character is because I want to be able to see those buttons. Okay. And it would be hard if I made them as small as a real button, so I exaggerated those just a little bit, just so they're easier to see. Okay, so UV mapping is not hard. If I was to try to UV map that with a planar map, that would be a little more difficult to do. But since I already know, I'm going to go in there and basically cut the UV shell. I'm going to hit the F key so I can focus around on it. There we go. So if you notice you have some, if you hold down the Alt key and your left mouse button, you notice that it's not rotating around the center of that object. Just select the object and hit the F key. Okay. And then you can zoom in a little bit. Okay. Using the Alt key and your right mouse button, holding both of those. I notice a lot of you guys like to use your middle mouse button, but it does it in increments. That's not very good. It's too fast, so the increments are very harsh, but you get a smooth zoom in and out by holding down the Alt and the right mouse button. Just don't forget about that. You're going to need that. Okay, now you can see how it's rotating around something, a pivot of the camera pivot. So I've got to hit the F key again. There we go. And that allows me to zoom in and rotate around that button. Okay, that's helpful when you're trying to set up your seams. Okay, all right. So let's take you through that real quick. It shouldn't take long to set up the seams for this and lay those UVs out. Okay, buttons are really easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the history if there's any. Okay, freeze transformations if there is any, and then we're going to go right to it. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go into edge mode like we always do, and then I'm going to go to UV cut and sew tool, click on the option box, reset it and close it, and now I'm ready to go. So I'm going to do an outside edge, double click on that. Again, like I said, this is going to be easy. It's not going to be hard at all. double click on this edge here, and then I'm going to get a little closer. I have to zoom in and not use my middle mouse button to scroll in. And I'm going to hold the shift key and just go double click on that. And this has holes, so I'm going to have to work with that. Okay, so I'm going to have to double click on that area there until I get to what I need to have for that. And do the same thing with this guy right here. Just get as far as I can and double click on this one. Here we go. Okay, doesn't have to be perfect. Again, the buttons are really small. Not going to see a whole lot of detail there. Okay, so I'm not going to be worrying about certain things. Now, I'm kind of getting janky with the rotation now. So I'm going to go in here and see if I can get that rotation a little bit better. So I can rotate around it. There we go. And get around the back. Just be patient with it. And then I'm going to do the inside of that went on the outside. Do the same thing over here. And do the inside of that button. And then you're going to be cutting those outside of those pieces again. Just go as fast as you can. There we go. And then we've got to cut a piece on the outside. Okay, we've got to cut probably from the bottom of this down. So I'm going to cut from right here. So I'm going to make that cut. I'm going to hold the shift key down, cut right there, and then go all the way around. Okay, very carefully all the way around the back to the other side like this. And I'm going to hold down the shift key and double click. And that should make, and I'm double clicked on that too. So for some reason there's a break there. And double click on that right here like that. Just get it all the way around. Okay. To the other side. There we go. So we have a cut on the outside. That's important for a round object. Okay. There we go. And it should go all the way through. And it does. Okay, that looks good. And the only other thing we need to do is we have those holes. Those need to be cut too as well inside. All you need is one cut. It doesn't matter where it is. Let me zoom in and show you what I mean. So I'm going to cut right here. Zoom in a little bit more. Just cut right here. And just kind of double click on that, and I'm going to do that for every one of those inside pieces. It doesn't matter if they're exactly the same, because you'll never see these. You'll never see these at all. So I'm just going to do this really quick here. Cut all the way through. Whoops. Nope. Nope. You got to get a little closer, I guess, to be able to see it. Okay, let me Control Z back. There we go. I'm trying to get that one right there. Here we go. There we go. Get this one. There we go. Great. Perfect. Again, I lost it. All right, so I'm done. So I'm going to hit the Q key. I'm going to right click over it and go to object mode, hit the F key, and you can see there it is. Okay. And you can see all the cuts I've done. It looks good. And then I'm going to go on to the UV mapping part of it. You can see it here. Oh, one thing I forgot to do is add a planer. That's okay. This was such a small object, I didn't want to take the time to do it, but you can add the planer or and that. But I didn't have a lot of seams on it anyway. I just, basically I just modeled it. There's not any history on it, so I didn't really have any UVs on it anyway, so that worked out fine. I'm going to turn the transform up, get into unfold, and click unfold. Okay, now you can see all the pieces that we have for the shell. Okay, and we're going to zoom out a little bit. You can see those are teeny little pieces. Okay, and that would be normal for a button. Okay, all right. So I'm going to go in here and just move these pieces out of the way. Excuse me. And do the same thing as we did with the shirt. Okay, we don't want to overlap UVs. Udem Tiles does not like that. Now, you would think, oh, well, the back and the front of the button will be the same. In fact, you could probably overlap all of these UVs. You could. Technically, you could. But when you're using Udem Tiles, you can't. It does not. It will not let you do that. It will let you do that, but it won't let you get it into the model into Substance Painter. You're going to have nothing but issues with that. So just keep that in mind. Okay, just make sure nothing is overlapped, and you're not and it's very important that your UVs do not go outside of the UV shell. Okay, very important. Okay, so I'm going to scale these up. Now, textile density doesn't really matter with small pieces, so meaning that you want to go ahead and scale them a bigger and have a higher textile density than the shirt would be, because you won't ever see them anyway. And if you do have a close-up of the button for some crazy reason, I have no idea what that would be, but if you did, they would look great. Okay, anyway, they don't have to be teeny tiny, and they're hard to work with that way anyway, so just get those in here. And little items like that, like a necklace, can be larger, not a problem at all as far as textile density goes. And again, we're going to use the arrange and layout with orient shells. Go ahead and orient these shells. And if you don't like the way that's oriented, just kind of rotate it the way you want it and then click on orient. There we go. Alright, so let's just do this quickly. I don't like those like that, so let's get those kind of flat. I don't like that way. Let's do this way. There we go, like that. I don't know if this really matters. I'm probably spending way too much time on this. Okay, so now we're going to go in here and just move these around, get them in here, pack them loosely for the buttons. There we go. Okay, so fine. And you're like asking yourself, that's just a horrible pack. You're right, it is. But it doesn't matter with Udem Tiles. You just want to try to fill the space up the best you can. Again, the shirt is the main thing we see, so the textile density needs to be set properly on that. And then the buttons, the smaller items, okay, unless they're large, small items like this, the textile density is kind of a wash on that, meaning that it just doesn't matter because they're so small anyway. So and normally, honestly, I would probably put just a plain material on it from Maya, just and call it done. But because I want to show that you can use Udem Tiles with the shirt, I'm doing it. I'm just kind of, this is kind of an example of how you do Udem Tiles. Okay, so that's done. I can transfer, these buttons are all the same. I can transfer this UV over to all the other UV shells using the transfer tool, and I'll show you that later, but I want to get everything in here first. Okay, so I'm just going to focus on one. So that one's done.